Hello, this is Luke Desira, and today we're going to be talking about the sales procedure as per ISO 9001 requirements. Okay, so first of all, I wanted to share my screen with you, okay, just to start giving you some information about the actual requirements within the ISO 9001 standard. And as you can see from this screen, I am sharing a sample flowchart of a sales process that basically covers all the requirements of the standard as set out for the sales process within a company. It is good to note that the sales process, if we had to find a particular clause or section in which ISO 9001 talks about the sales process, it would be clause 8.2, okay? And in this flowchart, we are seeing how the various elements within clause 8.2 are split out into different sections, okay? So in this video, basically, I will split it into two sections. In the first part, we're going to see the actual requirements of ISO 9001 when it comes to the sales and marketing process. And then we will create a flowchart, we will create a procedure relating to the sales as an example for a test, for a case study company, okay? So without much further ado, we can start straight away on this video, okay? So as per any other type of flowchart, we would start by having an input, okay, to the process. What will trigger the process to start? And the first consideration that we're going to have in the sales process would be that we would have some kind of request, okay, some type of incoming request from a potential or an existing customer. Of course, this can vary from one company to the next. If, for example, we are taking a supermarket, then the sales process would start when the client actually picks up the items from the store and proceeds to the cash register where they are ready to pay, excuse me, or when it comes to, for example, a consultancy company, then we consider that the incoming request is coming when we receive an email, for example, or a phone call from a potential client asking for our services, okay? So the activity that would start the sales process would greatly vary from one company to the next, okay? But that is the idea of how we will start. What will trigger the sales process to start? And the first element that we're discussing when it comes to the actual requirements of the standards is communication with the customers. And this can include providing information relating to the products and services and on how we handle inquiries, contracts, or orders, including any changes, okay? So this first section, clause 8.2.1 in section A, talks about actually the marketing, okay, and how the company is sharing information relating to the products and services to potential clients. And 8.2.1b talks about how we are handling requests, contracts, or orders, including changes, with a particular focus on the actual communication that we are using with our potential clients, okay? After we have received this request, okay, so at the first stage, we might be putting some promotional material online, for example. So that is one way in which we can be communicating with potential customers. Then we can move forward to explaining how an actual request is being handled, okay, how the inquiries, contracts, and orders are being handled from a communication point of view. And then in clause 8.2.2, we are seeing that the company has to ensure that the requirements for the products and services are defined, okay, including any applicable statutory and regulatory requirements, okay, and that the organization has those considered necessary by the organization, okay? So in the second element, we are considering any other requirements that we will need to define with our clients that we define as being important. So let me just give you an example in this case. If, for example, we are selling food products, let's say we are selling bread products, bread, okay, so we are a manufacturing company, we manufacture bread, and we are selling to wholesalers who will then in turn be reselling our products to the end user, okay? So in the first element, where we have to consider the applicable statutory and regulatory requirements, we are going to assume, because the client doesn't actually need to tell us, we are going to make sure that we are following such legal requirements, all the requirements that come into place when we are manufacturing food, okay? So for example, HACCP has to be taken into consideration, and other elements that we are considering to handle food in a professional way and in a way that is safe for the end user. In the second element, we are saying that those considered necessary by the organization. And in this case, for this food company, then we will need to know what type of food product, because a company can produce different types of food products, okay? And the quantity, for example, of each particular product, the quantity of how much the client needs from us. We can also get information, for example, the estimated delivery date and other information that we are defining as important as a company to get this information before we actually proceed with the quote, okay? And the organization has to make sure that we can meet the claims for the products and services being offered, okay? So if there are certain elements that we are not capable of offering to our potential clients, then we should make sure that this information is communicated to the client as early as possible within the sales process, to make sure that we are being honest and upfront with our limitations as a company as early as possible in the communication process, okay? And the results of the internal discussions being made on whether we are able to handle a particular request by a client has to be documented in a simple way as defined in clause 8.2.3.2, okay, as we can see over here. Naturally, the extent to which these details are going to be discussed will vary from one company to the next, okay? So for example, if a company such as myself, I specialize in ISO certifications, if I receive a request relating to ISO certifications, then invariably I will not need to make sure that I am able to deliver on the result, because from a knowledge point of view, I am certainly able. But if the client asks for a very tight deadline, for example, they want to be certified in a month's time, for example, then I would need to check with my availability to make sure that I am available for that particular client to meet the particular deadline that is being asked by the client. Naturally, this type of review and communication doesn't need to happen only on an internal basis, but we can also be discussing this type of information with our potential customer to make sure that they are that we are both in line on the type of requirements and the expectations that are being met. May I remind you that ISO 9001 is a management system relating to quality, and expectation management is definitely part of having a good quality product or service. And then after we have confirmed to our client that we are able to meet the requirements set by the client, then we are going to get some kind of confirmation from the client, and we are going to start with the works. Clause 8.2.4 then talks about any changes in the requirements. We live in a real world, okay, not in a theoretical world, and the standard appreciates that as well. However, the standard asks us to make sure that if the client needed a certain kind of service from us or a product, and these requirements have changed or evolved over time, then we need to have the systems in place to make sure that our agreements and our operational records are updated accordingly to make sure that everyone within the company knows about these updated requirements from the client, to make sure that we are always working towards reaching the latest requirements set by the client to make sure that the customer requirements and expectations are being met. Okay, in most cases, when there are changes in requirements, we have to go back to the original drafting of the agreement. We have to go back a few steps within the sales process to make sure that all the requirements have been defined and that we have agreed with the client on the new requirements. Okay, and finally, after we have received the order from the client and there are no changes, then we can consider that order as being confirmed. Okay, so in a nutshell and in a purely requirements point of view, this flowchart that I have described right now meets all the requirements when it comes to the sales and marketing procedure as per ISO 9001-2015. Okay, but clause 4.2 within the standard states that a company has to map out its key processes, and the sales and marketing procedures can be considered as a sales process as per ISO 9001. So the sales and marketing process would need to be documented. So in the second part of this video, where I am explaining everything you need to know about the sales procedure, I'm going to share with you a real-life example of me creating a procedure relating to the sales and marketing of a consulting business. Okay, so I'm going to keep this image on the side, okay, as a reference, but I'm going to start afresh. Okay, so I'm going to remove all the current okay, all the current, let me just save this somewhere else. Okay, so sales processes, sorry, version 2. Okay. And as you can probably notice, I am creating this flowchart based on a software that you can find online. Okay, it is called Draw, DRAW.io. Okay, and I like using this software because it is very intuitive and helps me work with the client when creating any type of procedure. Okay, so without any further ado, let's start with how I receive. So basically, I'm going to be creating a flowchart for how I handle the sales procedure for my own consulting business, and I'm going to make sure that this procedure is fully compliant with the requirements of ISO 9001-2015. So the process, the input, starts whenever I receive a request. So receive request from a potential client, and this can be via telephone, email, or any other source. Okay. In all cases, and however I receive the request, the first step that I would do would be to have a telephone conversation with potential client. Okay, and there isn't anything in particular that I like to cover during this initial call. It is just an introduction of myself as a consultant, and for me to make sure that the lead that I got is actually something that I can help Okay, so I wanted to make sure that the potential client that I'm speaking with is actually a potential client in the sense that they do need ISO 9001 or any other type of ISO certification. Okay, so I will have that conversation with the client, and the next step, I will set up an appointment with the potential client. Okay, in this case, okay, I'm going to be using a document, okay, a type of software, really and truly, and I personally use Google Calendar for me to keep track of all of my meetings. So once an appointment is set, the Google Calendar is a type of record that I am keeping to track all my meetings. So I'm going to set up the appointment on the Google Calendar. I'm going to have the meeting with the potential client. Okay. So conduct inquiry meeting. Okay. And during the meeting, I do have a form that I use to make sure that I am gathering all the information. And in my system, this form is called inquiry form, okay, because I use it in an inquiry meeting. Okay, I'm just going to move this bit downwards. We have no instructions in this particular process. Okay. Okay. So after the meeting with the potential client has been done, then I would have all the information that I would need to create a tailored quote to the client. So create tailored quote to the client. Okay. And over here, really and truly, I do two things. Okay. So, and I update two types of records primarily. So I have I use the template for ISO quotation, okay, and I update the CRM. Okay, a CRM is a customer relationship management software that I use during my sales process to monitor the status of each of my leads. And basically, at that step, that is everything that I do. Okay, so I create the quote to the potential client. I do not send the quote directly to the client at that point. First, I call the client, the potential client, I should say, to set up a proposal meeting, okay? And then I would send the quotes to the client prior, send the quote to the client prior to the meeting, okay? So the client will have some time to review the work, okay? And the client will have some time to evaluate my proposal before we actually meet, so that when we meet, I will be able to answer any questions that they might have during the proposal meeting. Finally, when the client sees the proposal, okay, so then really and truly would have the proposal meeting. And at this point, the client has two choices, okay? They can either confirm. So over here we have a decision, okay? Client decision. It can be that the client either confirms, in that case, plan the work. Actually, in that case, we're going to have the output straight away. So as you can see, when creating the sales and marketing procedure, or any procedure really and truly within ISO 9001, it is an actual reflection of how you work as a company. It is not that we are trying to meet the requirements of the standard, and I will come back to the requirements. But first, I am thinking about what actual work do we do as a company in our sales and marketing process. Okay, so in this case, the client has confirmed. So the client, yes, client wants to proceed. Okay, or else the client can decide to wait, update CRM. Okay, so in this case, the client tells us that they are interested, but they want to wait. Lead wants to wait. Okay, just further, and I'm going to rename this as lead rather than a client because we are still in the sales process. Or if the client wants some kind of change, then we would need to go back to setting up another appointment, okay, for me to fill in, to basically start the whole process again, whereby I am going to set up an appointment and update the Google Calendar. I'm going to conduct another inquiry meeting and fill in the inquiry form with the updated information. I'm going to create a tailored quote to the client, update the CRM accordingly, and use the template for ISO quotation to do the template itself. I will recall the client once again to set up a proposal meeting. I will send the updated quote, and I will do another proposal meeting to make sure that the client now is happy with my request. And over here, I'm going to write that the client, actually, the lead wants updated quote. Okay, and I'm going to rename this as lead. So if we were to once again go back to the requirements that are needed, so in the first step, we are considering that we have an input, customer request, yes. We have information, providing information relating to the products and services. Okay, very interesting. So at this point, I actually do offer my clients information. Okay, so whenever I receive a request, I send a free ebook to potential clients. Okay, and I do send that after I get a request, and that is one of the types of communication that I use, okay, at the sales stage. I handle inquiries. We've mentioned how inquiries are being mentioned, and the applicable statutory and regulatory requirements, together with any other requirements set by the client, are first, I would first get that information from the inquiry form. Okay, so in the inquiry form, for example, some of the information that I would be gathering would be the number of people working for the company, the deadline by when do they want to get certified, the scope of certification, and the number of sites that they have for certification. So my point is that in the inquiry form, I am making sure that I collect all the information that I need to actually do the quote. And then the template for the ISO quote includes all the statutory and regulatory requirements relating to my services, okay? And it also includes a space for me where I can write information that is specific to this particular client. Okay, so by creating these types of forms, I have managed to simplify my sales process, where I have met all the requirements set by ISO 9001 relating to the procedure of the sales process in a very simple way, because the information is available to me within these templates and within these forms. Okay, so I am getting the confirming to the client that I am able to meet the statutory and legal requirements within the quote. I am getting the information to items relating to the specificities of my product and service. I'm getting that information within the inquiry form and then communicating that within the quote, okay, within the template quote, and that the organization can meet the claims for the products and services offered, okay? And from the inquiry form, I am asking all the questions that I need to get a reply to before I can commit to the client that I can do the work, okay? So if we would like to add that particular step over here, okay, so we are conducting the inquiry meeting, and then we can add another step between these two steps to make sure that we are actually reviewing the work that is requested by our client and that we are able to deliver on that work, okay? I can also add, and I should probably do it, on how I'm getting an order confirmation from the client, okay? So once the client wants to proceed with the work, then I'm going to just copy this over here, okay? And I'm going to add a new step of what will happen, okay? So get copy of signed agreement form from client, because that person is now a client, because now they have shown specific interest that they would like to work with our company, okay? So get order confirmation has also been tackled. Changes, we have tackled how changes will be handled. The output is linked, so we can confirm that a client will be actually working with us after they have signed the agreement form. Okay, so that is the output of the process, that we have an official new client. And then once we have a new client, the next process that would have to be triggered would be to start the planning process, okay, which is when we are going to be actually working on this particular client, okay. What I have not mentioned is the person who will be doing this work, okay. So there is myself, Luke Desira, okay. There is my office admin, okay, and I'm going to give the colors, the color yellow to my office admin, okay, and I'm going to leave white for myself. And this will show us straight away who is responsible for what, okay. So my office admin handles communication with potential clients to set up appointments. I do the meeting myself. Then my admin creates the proposal based on the information that I provide, okay. The admin person sets up the appointment, okay, and sends the quote to the potential client. I go to the proposal meeting. If the client wants to wait, this is updated by the office admin, okay. These processes are also done by the office admin, okay. So as you can see from here, my roles within the sales process are to receive the request and to give the free ebook to the potential clients. I will speak with the clients, then the office admin will set up an appointment for myself with the potential client. I will do the meeting myself. I do the proposal meeting as well, and effectively what I actually do with clients is to do the communication. The communication, the actual back office work is being done by the office administrator. Okay. I can also mention the equipment that is used. Okay, so in this case, for example, I do not need person 2 and person 3. And what I need for the sales process is my laptop, really and truly, and all the laptops actually, because also laptop, Luke, and office admin. Okay, so we need 2 laptops. We need the car for Luke Desira to actually do the meeting, and we have the CRM, which is the software that we are using to keep track of the conversations with our clients, excuse me. And finally, we have Microsoft Office that is being used to create the templates and to create the actual quotes for the clients. Finally, I will need to set up some objectives relating to the sales process, okay, some KPIs. So for example, to receive more than whatever leads per month, okay, which is part of my marketing initiative, to get quotes confirmed from quotes issued. Okay, so for example, to have 5 quotes confirmed from 10 quotes issued. So this is giving me information relating to my conversion ratio. And finally, to generate whatever amount of sales to generate in sales in 20XX. Okay, so in any given year. As you can see, these are the quality objectives that I have identified for this particular process, and you can look within this website to have more information about the actual quality objectives. And really and truly, that is all that you will need to do to meet all the requirements of the sales and marketing procedure as per ISO 9001 requirements. If you have any questions relating to this topic or to any other topic relating to any of the procedures required within ISO 9001, please feel free to contact me on hello@lukedesira.com, and I would be very happy to help. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to having a chat with you on how I can help you to implement ISO 9001 within your company as well. Thanks.